Just moments ago, the National Transportation Safety Board chairperson wrapped up their part of a press conference regarding that deadly limousine accident that happened on Saturday afternoon, took 20 lives, including the driver of the limousine, everyone inside the limo, as well as 2 pedestrians. Now, Tanya Fletcher from CBC News in Vancouver has been following along with me. Tanya, I'll just take a moment to remind people about what exactly we've heard earlier. Moments ago, before we heard from the NTSB, we heard from state police about their part of the investigation, where they confirmed the name of the company involved in this Prestige limousine. You talked to us about that. The man who owns that company, that they're trying to get in touch with him, reportedly he's out of the country right now. The limo driver did not have the right license to operate a vehicle like this because, as you highlighted for us, it's classified as a bus. He did not have the proper accreditation to do that. We also found out that this party, they were on their way to a birthday celebration, had actually rented a different vehicle, but at the last minute it canceled, and so they had to revert to Prestige limousine. All sorts of pieces coming together on this story, but walk us through what we just heard from the National Transportation Safety Board.
Well, they certainly say they're going to start right at the bottom and try to figure out what led up to this crash. So the NTSB said they'll start with the tires. Were the right size tires on this vehicle? The age of the tires? Was there perhaps any corrosion of the vehicle? Keep in mind, this Ford Expedition, I believe it was a 2001 model, as they mentioned, was rolled off as manufactured as a Ford Expedition, not as a limo. It underwent a stretching technique, and so they say they have to find out now if those guidelines were followed. He did point out that that's not illegal, and stretch limos are not necessarily more dangerous than perhaps regular SUVs or regular limos, but they have to find out if the actual guidelines were certified properly to make sure that the federal regulations were followed. He also took us through the layout of this limo. So of course you have 2 seats in the front, there's a partition in the middle, and in the back you have a rear facing, a front facing, and 2 side facing benches to accommodate all of these seats, plus a bar. So the big question now is, were all of these seats equipped with seat belts, and were these seat belts being worn? Now, they also pointed out that in the state of New York, seat belts are not required to be worn in the back portion of the limo. However, they are required for any of the driver and or any passengers that may be sitting in the front of the limo. Now, he did talk through also the extensive damage. Of course, this was a very serious crash. He talked about how the engine itself was pushed back into the front of the limo, and specifically to the left front side, and he says that really speaks to what they call high energy impact. So they're not necessarily saying speed was a factor in that, but that just high energy impact is what that indicates. Also highway factors, and at this point I want to bring up that map that we showed you before just to walk you through some of these new details they've been giving us if we still have it. He says that road they were coming down, here it is, was quite a steep hill, and actually this road was recently reconfigured a few years ago. It didn't used to be this T intersection. It used to be kind of a bend around the corner, but they recently in the past few years have made it this 90-degree intersection. So they're going to look at whether that played a factor. So that SUV, as we mentioned, plowed through that intersection, and it hit an Apple Barrel country store and cafe. That's where a parked SUV was sitting. It rammed through the SUV and hit 2 pedestrians in the parking lot as well. They're going to look at prior crash history of the driver itself, look more into the company. They had a drone fly over the area today so they can do comparisons, kind of before and after looks at that area to see if that was a concern. And of course, driver error, driver fatigue. They'll look at toxicology reports, qualifications, were there past infractions on the driver's part. So all of these questions still to be looked into, and they said that these investigators will be on site at that scene for at least the next 5 days. So we'll continue to follow those developments as we get them, Natasha.
Okay, thanks so much, Tanya.
You bet.